Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of Chasing Collectibles Catchup. It's been a while. Uh, I'm Tyler, and we have kind of a special episode today because Tim, who's usually doing this with me, is the subject of the interview. We got Tim Cintron and Derek Isgett, who they are leading a convention coming up soon. So, welcome, guys.
Hey,
Thanks for
thanks for
having me.
having me.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
So Tim, does this mean like going forward, am I the main host? Since like you're now thanking me for having you.
I think we can make you the main host.
Wow. Does that come with a raise?
We'd have to talk to
Oh no,
human resources about that.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't, that might not be a conversation that's worth airing. We might have to go in the back rooms for that. Um, so I want to first
congratulations, Tyler.
start off. I want to first start off with a question that I usually ask people when they come on. Derek, you can kind of start off with this. How did you first get into comics? Just like not even selling, but just collecting comics.
Um, Actually, my older brother kind of got me into comics. His first job was at a comic book store, and instead of getting paid in money, he got paid in comics. So he
Mm,
would bring them home every few days, and he's kind of the one that got me interested into it.
nice.
And that was a long time ago. I was a little kid back then.
So what kind of stuff would he give you? Mainly Marvel or
He never
DC?
really
Or,
It was both. Mostly what I remember from back then was Marvel, X-Men, and Spider-Man. He never really gave me any, but he always had them, and I would see them, laying around, and they just kind of piqued my interest as well.
nice. Do you try to I know a lot of people try to collect the stuff that they had when they were kids. Have you tried to collect some of that stuff?
Um, in an essence, yes. I actually remember a couple of comics specifically that I had when I was younger, and they at some point disappeared and was gone for years and years and years. And then I met up with a guy that I used to hang out with a long time ago, and he was trying to sell his comic book collection. And I actually saw these two books in his collection. I was like, "Oh, I used to have these when I was a kid." And he said, "Those are actually the books that you had when you were a kid." Apparently I had traded them to him for a guitar at some point, and then just completely forgot that. But I actually have those two books now back into my personal collection.
Sweet.
So weird that you asked that
Awesome.
question. Matter
Uh,
of fact, I think they're right over here. Actually,
yeah, I was just about to ask, what are the two books?
I actually do have them right here, which is crazy. They just
That's
happen to be
really
sitting out.
convenient. We did not plan
Um,
this.
yeah, not at all. So it was Daredevil 257. It was the issue where he fights the Punisher.
That was a good
I,
one.
I just always love the cover and the fact that Daredevil and Punisher were fighting each other. And the other one was the Tales to Astonish 100.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. Weird that I had those when I was a kid, and like my old friend was like, "Those are the ones you had when you were a kid."
Yeah.
So
Now, now Tim, I kind of
that
know
was a
your
happy day.
story. Yeah, I bet. Um, Tim, I kind of know your story because you told me once before how like it was the war was going on and you had like a nickel and it was during the Depression and you saw Captain America #1 on the stands and you just felt a surge of patriotism and you bought it.
So you want to be the host from now on, huh? You might not live to see the next
he,
one. I th-
he sold that Captain America #1 for 12 cents.
Yeah, for
That's
20
right.
made a 7 cent profit.
I did. I did. And then I bought myself a soda pop.
Now, Tim, how'd you first start buying?
Oh, okay. I'm trying to sum this up here. Let's see, I was probably about 11 years old and no, maybe 10 or 11. I found a copy of Brute Force in like the basement area of the house. that we were living in, me and my family. And you know, knowing my brother, my older brother, it was probably his, and he was like, "Oh, brute force sucks," and just like threw it on the floor, and I just happened to pick it up and like, wow, these things have like really cool powers and stuff, and they're like, shooting things and flying around. It's kind of neat. And then he showed me some comics of his that he had, Fantastic Four and some Iron Mans and that kind of like, especially with Fantastic Four, kind of got me going. My uncle at the time, he was a big comic collector, and once he knew I had an interest in it, would let me go through his collection, and I would bring just stacks of books home all the time to read. All his earlier Fantastic Four books. Um, um, Matter of fact, I think there was one issue of Fantastic Four. I felt so bad because I spilled one of my drinks on it and ruined it. Uh, wasn't like a huge, issue, but it was which one was it? You know that issue of Fantastic Four where the She-Hulk is like punching the thing through a yellow wall and Spider-Man is sticking to the wall and looking down at them. Like I don't know if you guys remember that issue, but um that was the cover of it. And uh so anyway, he used to lend me like all sorts of books and Spider-Man, and I got into watching the cartoons and X-Men and Spider-Man became my guy, and followed by like my favorite teams were Fantastic Four and X-Men. Watching those older cartoons, my dad would pick them up for me all the time. Those 1967, 1969 cartoons where it's like they were comic book pages and you would just see like Captain America's shield and arm punching the Red Skull, but like that's the only part of his body that would move until like his mouth would move and he would talk. It was pretty neat. Um, so I mean that triggered, a lot of stuff for me. I had a lot of toys, Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, Thundercats, and some of that stuff, that got lost to me over the years, and I've been collecting it, recollecting it back up all over again, and in that process, seeing a lot of new stuff that I really like, and because a lot of new stuff that they're selling today is just retro things from the past.
Yeah,
So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
yeah. That's how the bug got started, and haven't looked back since.
No.
No, I know how Tim got started doing cons is like we were doing them together. I think it was 2022, I think was the first year we did one, and Lincolnton was our first.
Mhm.
Um, Derek, how'd you first get into, doing cons and things like that and actually like selling?
Uh, well, I first got into selling when actually the friend that had this collection called me up one day and needed to sell his comics because was out of work and had to pay some bills. And he just asked me if I'd come over and help him get a value on it. So I went over to his house and looked through what he had and told him what I thought they were worth and what I thought a comic book store might give him for it. And I didn't think they were going to give him enough to pay the bills he had to pay. Um, so I had noticed that he had a lot of books that I wouldn't have minded adding to my own personal collection. So I wound up buying his collection from him. And then, after picking out what I wanted to keep, there was still a lot left over. So I started doing dollar auctions on Facebook. I'd start books off at $1, in auctions. And then a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to set up with him at a convention. And we did Power Comic Con in Florence, March of 2020 was my first show. Haven't looked back since.
Yeah.
And that blast that day.
No, it's always a good time selling books.
Yeah. So I've been doing it for almost 5 years now. Conventions.
Nice. So then, how did you trying to think of when did you guys first start, kind of connecting and all? It was, I guess it would have been through conventions, just hanging out at cons, talking with that connection.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that and Derek, feel free, he can correct me. But I feel like me and Derek kind of run in a certain um like circuit, I guess you can say. There's a certain group of us. Um, it's usually, like me and Derek and Chris, Beardy Weirdy, um, Sam. We all know Sam um
Yeah.
from Hey Kids Comics, who he puts on his own show twice a year. Me and Derek will be there, Spartanburg. Um, who else? Wayne. Um,
Came from Smashers. So yeah, we just we're doing all the same conventions.
I don't want to say. I mean, others have said it. I think we're not the youngest guys in netter dealers, but I would say we're probably that middle to young group. That's kind of like we niche together, and yeah, we just click together. And yeah, it was a lot of this the guys who I go to shows with, now a lot of them were dealers I was buying from before we even started setting up, Tyler. I
Same
bought
here.
stuff from Chris. Yeah. Um I believe maybe even Wayne. Um mm, I think Derek maybe once. Like, cause Derek always had such a big setup of books. So, um, and then I was, and then Sam, of course, because Sam always had like, a big setup too. Always. You can always just rummage his
Yeah.
his dollar bins and put sets
Yeah. I used to
together.
always before I started dealing myself.
And that's kind of a cool thing about, doing these cons. Everyone's kind of it is like I mean, obviously people all want to make money, but there's kind of a camaraderie, and you see the same people, and everyone's for the most part super nice. If you're like, hey, I don't have this, but this guy might, or you kind of naturally, you know, make friends
Yeah.
that way.
That was actually a fear that I had when I first started doing conventions that all the people that were already there would be like, "Who's this new guy trying to cut in on my business?"
Yeah,
But it was a complete opposite.
right.
Everybody, welcomed me, helped me, guided me through early conventions. Which ones to do, which ones not to do. Where to go to load in. That kind of stuff. So complete opposite of what I was fearing it was going to be,
Right. No, it's
It's
awesome.
which is great.
and it's funny that you mentioned that because I recall, um, I think early last year, sometime I was at a show with everybody and Sam was there and you know Peter from Goblin Horde, he's like probably a young guy now in the group. Um and
Yeah, he's the new guy now.
yeah. So I'm always, picking on him and I remember, I tell everybody all the time that I'm still the new guy and Sam overheard it. He's like, "You, the new guy?" He goes, "You're not a new guy." He goes, "I don't even know if you're like the middle guy anymore, Tim. You're just there." It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. He's like, "You're not even the old guy. You're not the new guy." So,
So,
You're in limbo in between.
yeah, pretty much.
well,
So,
so I know like Tim, you've got behind you in addition to that, beautiful Chasing Collectibles sign. You've got the Nerd Fest, and that's kind of the main thing we wanted to talk about today is this convention coming up on March 22nd in Rock Hill. Wonder if we can talk just a little bit about the show. What's going to be unique about it? Why should people go? Just plug away. I'm super excited for it.
Derek, you want to start?
I can. So we're planning for just family friendly, have a good time Comic Con. Um, we're gonna have a little bit of everything. There are multitude of comic book dealers, but also vintage toy dealers, video game dealers, um, Pokemon cards. We're also going to have artists, and the 501st Legion is going to be there for you Star Wars fans. The Ghostbusters of South Carolina are going to be there set up. Um, Food trucks. Uh, we're working on even setting up an arcade at the show. So it's a little something for everybody.
Yeah, that already sounds really. I haven't heard of a con really having an arcade before. That's really neat.
Hmm. Um, so, I mean, yeah, I mean, like, like Derek is saying, definitely, that our main thing here is to try and create a family friendly show for for the community. We feel, we feel like, there's a lot of shows when you go into like the Hickory area and Asheville, and they're great shows. Timmy Mack puts on great shows. Time Tonal Comics, they do some awesome shows up there. And then of course, you have Charlotte, which has Heroes, the biggest show in I would of that sort. I would say what, like, on the entire East Coast, that is mainly comic based. It's not a thing that we're all Hollywoodish, and then you have Charlotte Comic Con. Dave and Rick put on a great show. They have their um one day show that is always jam packed, and they do that usually 3 times a year. So we feel that it's about time that Rock Hill had something uh to bring to the community. Something that we have over 70 tables at our show for the first show. Um, so that's the biggest show to ever happen in all of York. Um, Kids are getting in free. Everyone 12 and under gets in free. We're giving out free comic books to young kids as they enter the show. We're going to have face painting there for them, no charge. And we're hoping to get some cosplayers, have some cosplayers show up. And just keep in mind that it has to be family friendly, whatever you're cosplaying as. And I'm trying to think what else are we gonna we're gonna have Derek was talking about multiple people. We got Lego, someone who's selling Legos,
Yeah.
come, kids love Legos. And I'm trying to think. Hmm. Let's see. We still have more announcements to make from now until March 22nd that I don't know yet. Um,
Can
if
we
we announce them.
can we mention the person we talked about before we started?
Sure.
I know that Karen Whitfield's going to be there. That's
Yes.
pretty exciting. She's going to be she's guest of honor, right? She's going
Yes.
to be
Very
so that's
excited.
yeah, she's awesome. We've had her on the show, and she's been doing the circuit at cons for the last couple of years. And for those who don't know, she's the Bronze Age's Batgirl. She went around doing tours with Adam West and with like yeah, Burt Ward, doing shows with them and all that. So she's really cool. So that's awesome that she's going to be there,
Mm-hmm.
and
And
it's in a good location. I mean, it's at the school, and it's not for those folks that might be coming from Charlotte or elsewhere. It's not far off of 77, so pretty easy to get to.
mm-hmm. Yeah, right there, Sullivan Middle School. Um, we got the entire gymnasium rented out, and let's see, trying to think. Our times are 10 to what are we saying? 10 to 4.
And four.
So, and tickets for all adults are only $5.
$5, kids 12 and under get in free.
Yeah, it's not bad at all when you consider what it takes to go to a movie and take the family to movies these days. I mean, that's you know,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, you could have your whole family come for like $10, depending
yeah,
on how old your kids are.
right. No, it's
Mom, dad, $5 each, and the kids get in free.
Yeah.
and I guess just to talk a little bit more about the con. We always are trying to get more people to come, more young folks to go to cons. It's cool. I always get happy when I see at conventions, younger people, even if they're not, young people don't tend to spend as much money, but it's really that's not what it's about. It's about, keeping the community going, keeping the fandom going. So I guess what would your message be to like younger people to try to get them to come to con beyond just I know under 12, but if we've got our teenagers, young people, why should they come to a convention?
Well, I feel that for younger people, local younger people, this show is right here, in our county, York County, so it's much closer for them to get to it. And we do feel that we have a good mix of dealers, whether you're, again, Derek was mentioning all the multiple of dealers that we have. Whether you're into cards, because we have D&D guys also coming out. Whether you're into cards, whether you're into games, whether you're into toys, comics, there will be a good mix of different types of dealers here, and a lot of the dealers that we have are younger dealers than what they might usually see at other shows. Nothing wrong with older dealers because we learn a lot from them, and they also, pack some awesome books and know a great deal about a lot of history of these books. But we have a good mix of the two, of younger dealers and older dealers, um, particularly younger, who are more current and up to date on what's modern trends are, and um, what's happening now in the industry, and even like people like myself, I'm still reading modern books. you know um I'll pick up an older trade sometimes and read that, but I'm reading books, you know a lot of indie stuff and a lot of Marvel and a little bit of DC. Um, Particularly because there's not that much DC out there, and I just like the art and the writing better in the other two, um, which wasn't always the case. But again, that's my preference, and I'm reading stuff that's coming out today. So, and I have, you know other dealers there that are doing the same.
Yeah, so not to mention just the fact you talk about how, or why we want people to come and a younger generation to come. Um, it's just going to be a great atmosphere. I don't see any reason why somebody can't go, like, can't come to the show and have a good time. I mean, like if you're into video games, we're going to have an arcade set up. Like Tim said, face painting for the little kids, or even the teenagers might even like that, or even some of the adults. But just the fact that there is pretty much something for everybody. Um, Plus, I'm envisioning just a fun day, to just hang out.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely.
that's what I'm envisioning.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I was just skimming through the Facebook page a little bit, and there really is. I mean, if people haven't, I would go to the Nerd Fest on Facebook. There's so many things. I mean, lots of comic dealers, but also people with video games. Like you said, there's action figures, some of the artists, and like there's freelance people, there's people selling like cool little like smaller things. Um, all sorts of stuff. And like you said, you probably, there's gonna be more announcements between now and March 22nd. Um, so like there's gonna be something for everybody. You got what the Bill and Ted uh van I
Yeah,
saw. That's cool.
Yeah.
yeah.
And also, we're trying to keep what, when we start putting this show together, we wanted to get as many local people involved as we could. So, right off the bat, our illustrator, who made Nerdfest, the sign for us, uh, Liz Shepherd, I'm sure you've heard of her, Tyler.
Hmm.
She,
Yep.
she she's young and upcoming, and is we contacted her and just started throwing ideas at her, and we were going back and forth for a little while, and finally she showed us this, and we're like, can you tweak this a little bit, can you add this to it, and she was very accommodating and easy to work with, and
So make sure you check out our table when you come to our show.
yeah.
Yes. Say hi
She
to
will,
her. She'll be
she will
there.
be
Yes.
she will be set up there. Yes.
I recommend good people. She was on our show a couple years ago, and I think she'll be on again sometime soon.
Mhm.
Um, I do want to talk about real quick, before we run too long. Um, you guys have been in shows, you've signed up for for tables, set up and all that. Now you've been on the other side of things, and Tim, I haven't really been. This has been a you and Derek thing. I've been I've listened to you a little bit and talked to you about it, but this is definitely you guys. So what's it like, kind of being on the other end of the equation, the planning end, rather than I'm gonna buy a table and show up. How's that been?
I
Derek,
can
you want
tell
to
you
start?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you that it's definitely opened my eyes on certain things. It has not been easy. I think the hardest part actually was finding a venue. Um, but it's definitely opened my eyes to that side of it and the difficulties that can come with putting on a show like this. Um, so yeah, there's that. It's not completely easy. It's been fun. It really has been fun. I mean, once we got the early stuff out of the way, that was probably the hard stuff. You
Yeah.
know, finding a venue, picking a date that didn't have 10 other conventions going on that weekend. That was really the hard part. Finding a
Yeah,
weekend that there were no.
I imagine that must be like a Sudoku puzzle. You mean you put one piece or Rubik's cube, you're like, okay, this date, okay, oh, never
We,
mind, this convention's that day. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
imagine.
we had to reach
Um,
out to quite a few other promoters.
yeah, and ask, hey, when are you going to have your show? Because we don't want to intrude on your weekend, because we set up at those shows, so of course we don't
Right.
want to have our show the same day as another show, um, for multiple reasons. We don't want to intrude on them. We don't want them to intrude on us, and we don't want to split the comic community. I don't want people to have to decide, should I go to this show or should I go to that show? I
Right.
want everybody to go to that person's show, and I want everybody to come to our show. So finding a date that worked for not only us but other promoters that we are friends with was kind of difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine. Tim, I've been in the car. I've seen your journal.
You seen all my scribble?
Yes. How do you feel about the process?
So everything Derek is saying is it's spot on. But what's good is that um um just getting to the point where me and Derek, because that's another story in and of itself. Um, that's more of a personal story, I think, maybe. I'm not sure. For those who know. Um, to the point where me and Derek are like, you know what? Let's put on a show. Let's do this, you know, our let's do this our way, how we want it. And I'm happy
We
that
I don't mean to interrupt you, Tim, but we brainstormed on like things that we liked at other conventions and things that we didn't like at other conventions, and so we were like, all right, well let's add this, let's take that away, so that we could have the best show not only for the customers that come, but for the dealers that set up as well. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just had
no,
that thought in my head.
but and that's very, very true. Like, doing this with Derek, Sullivan Middle School was not the first venue we looked at, but the one that we did look at, I was kind of like, well, this is the best price, and I think we can make this work. Derek came to look at it. I can tell he was kind of off, kind of like not
Yeah.
feeling it too much.
Was your
And
garage, right?
yeah.
It wasn't much bigger than a garage.
Um, and what's good about working with Derek is he was straightforward with me and telling me like, this isn't how, no, I'm not feeling good about this. And and I was like, okay, all right. So just kept looking, and Derek lives, quite a while away. And then I was, it's like, all right, well, what about this place? And Derek drove all the way over here to come and look at another
Yeah,
venue. And he was like, this is awesome. This feels good. And I was like, okay, cool. All right. Um,
yeah, that felt really good.
I'm like I'm like a big kid, and um, in it where uh how can I say, I I'm what is it? Like I'm like a big fan of this industry so much that sometimes that gets ahead of me before making decisions that are like, you know what? Hold on. Let's just rethink this a little bit. Derek is like, he pulls the reins a little bit sometimes. It's like, wait, Tim, you know, let's, I don't like this. This,
Good to
I
have both
want
of
to,
those things.
yeah, I'm like, okay, all right, you know. So there's a number of times, or I'll call Derek and I'll be like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And he'll do the same thing with me too. And and it's pretty easy dealing and not dealing. It's pretty easy working alongside with Derek on this. Um, and what's also good about Derek when he says, we're gonna put on a family friendly show, this is coming from a guy who's a very family friendly, who's a very strong family man. I thought that was important. Um, you know, as you guys know, I have a family myself. So not saying we don't want, other people who aren't families, just saying uh,
It's
that is important to us. And we do have, you know, those type of things, yeah. Uh,
And And I do want to say it's really cool when you think about like I mean, Derek, you said he started in 2020. I know Tim, we started in 2022. To have like it's still relative, like in the grand scheme of things, 5 years, 3 years, still relatively young-ish when it comes to shows under 5 years. So it's cool, like within this 5 year span, to go from starting to do cons to then hosting your own. And then I think it also like shows the testament to like the goodwill you guys have in the comic book community. Because if you're just like, hey, I'm going to do a show, and it's important for people who are in the comic book community to be like, yes, we support you. We're going to come to your show, and there's lots of established dealers coming to the show. I think that's a great testament to what you guys have done in the past few years with being in the community.
So to that, I would say um that, and I know how like some people might perceive this, but this is just the honest truth of how I am and what how I've learned a lot of things about this industry is that I've had people I've looked up to in this industry that have been putting on shows themselves and have taught me quite a bit, about what it takes to put on a show. And that's attributed to like, Dave Henson and to Chris, Beardy Weirdy. So those two combined right there have kind of meshed um a, a lot of what I know and what I've learned, about shows and deal, being a dealer and things like that. And I know we all know Dave. So, and I know we all know Chris. So,
Yeah, all the dealers have been extremely supportive, which really means a lot to me, and I'm sure it means a lot to Tim as well. Because a lot of these people aren't just other dealers that I set up with; they're my friends. So just having all their support means a lot.
Yeah, I'm I'm super excited for the show. We're all very excited. It's going to be amazing. I do want to ask one more question, and this is somewhat unrelated. I like to end the show on a somewhat fun, unrelated question. And I got inspired to do this question when I saw you hop on with your shirt, uh, Derek, with Led Zeppelin. I'm a big, I enjoy music. I enjoy more of the older, 60s, 70s classic rock. Um,
you
at
know
con,
you're lying. You're such a Swiftie. I mean,
I,
just look at you.
I, I like. She's fine. She's fine. She's not my favorite, but she's fine.
Oh,
Um,
you're gonna get it now tomorrow at work.
I just wanted to ask, what are some of your favorite artists? I'm a Beatles, Bob Dylan, Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin guy. Tim and
Um,
Derick. What are your faves?
Zeppelin, definitely one of my faves. Iron Maiden, um, grew up listening to Iron Maiden when I was a little kid. That was the first, real metal band that I got into. But yeah, I love the older stuff too. Zeppelin, Thin Lizzy, big Thin Lizzy fan. All that kind of stuff. So mostly the same as you.
Yeah. We had a
So,
bit we used to do at Nickel Spot when it was open when it'd be Lauren or Nick or I, and we all would play that kind of music all the time, and we'd have someone would be looking through the books, and we'd have like a song like Hotel California playing, and we would just yell, "Man, I love Leonard Skinner," and they'd stop and be like, "Are these guys stupid?" Like, and obviously it was intentional, but like or like I don't know, Stairway to Heaven's playing. We're like, man, I love Queen. It's a
That's
so
stupid
funny.
joke you do to pass the time, but
I am a bit of an everything music guy, more of give me, if it's 90s stuff, 90s rock, hip hop. That was mostly the era that I grew up in, born in 1980, partied in the 90s.
yeah,
And then
I've driven with you a
but
lot. I mean, you're Pandora's all over the place.
It really is. I mean, you'll see me, go from like you're saying Led Zeppelin or Bob Dylan to, John Williams. And that whole, thing of music, and I love listening to, like, Back to the Future theme songs and Star Wars, as I'm driving. I'm just imagining myself in the Millennium Falcon. And I look over at you and I'm like, wow, that's Chewbacca.
Maybe if I got a beard, I could pull that off. Um, well, cool. As we're wrapping up, I just want to uh, say one more time just the date for the con. It's going to be um, March
March
22nd.
22nd.
Yeah, March 22nd, Sullivan Middle School from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Adults $5 and kids 12 and under get free. Before we sign off, you guys have any last minute things you want to say about the con?
Just come out, support the show. If you guys want to see more shows like this in our community, we need people to come out and let's make this happen.
Yeah, just come out and have a good time.
All right, guys, it was cool doing this. I'm super excited for the show. A very short commute for Tim and I, so that's going to be fun. But I'm super excited for it. So again, that's March 22nd, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And that's been another Chasing Collectibles catch up. And we'll see you guys next time.
Yay! Come!